On this day in 1975, emergency was declared, and then began what has been the biggest blot on Indian democracy. There are leaders who lived through those 21 months. I have with me former Vice President of India, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu. Sir, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. You have often said that there should be lessons in textbooks for young students to know what really happened during those days. You have lived through those months.
Yes.
Would you recall for us?
Yes, I am very particular on what you have said just now about making this as a syllabi for the students to know what has happened to the country in 1975, emergency, why, how, and then how it was lifted. All these things must be made known to the youngsters because they are the future of the country. Secondly, I was sitting in a student meeting at the time. Friends were discussing, chatting. Suddenly a message came to me saying that emergency is going to be imposed. Emergency was a word which is not that much familiar with us. And then they said, please go underground. That was the message from ABVP. So I skipped away from the meeting and then slipped to some other town and changed my attire and all. 2.5 months I avoided emergency, arrest. And I was going around on a scooter, taking one of the girls who was a co-worker behind me so that people do not suspect me. And then changing attire and all, I used to go around and then distribute pamphlets, drop pamphlets in cinema halls against emergency, distribute this Vande Mataram newspaper, etc. That's how we campaigned against emergency. Later, one fine evening, when I was returning back to Vijayawada to give back the scooter of my friend, the manager of the theatre, owner, who is my friend, that manager was telling Circle Inspector, you are searching for Venkaiah Naidu, sir. That fellow is innocent, he do not know all this. He said he has taken scooter from Seshibhushan Babu, he will be coming back. So the inspector was waiting there, and I came there, he caught hold of my hand. I told Ramurthy, what are you doing? I know that him. He said, DSP is there behind, please cooperate. Then they arrested me, put me inside jail for 17.5 months.
17.5 months you were in jail.
Yes.
And that was the time when all the student leaders were in jail.
Most of the student leaders were in jail. And because the reason they have cited for my arrest was that I invited Jayaprakash Narayan to the university. I was chairman of the Students' Union. And then we heard about the Gujarat Navnirman movement and also this Chhatra Andolan of Bihar. There was movement against Abdul Ghaffur, late Abdul Ghaffur government, against corruption, against price rise, all those things. And JP was invited to Bihar. He came there and then he started addressing rallies and all. So there he has given a call. So I invited him to my university. He addressed the students. Students were very much impressed.
So that was the charge against you.
Yes.
Just an invitation for Jayaprakash Narayan.
Just an invitation for Jayaprakash Narayan. I was not in politics. I was not a member of any political party, but they cited this as a reason. MISA, Maintenance of Internal Security Act. Of course, we jokingly rightly used to call it as Maintenance of Indira Security Act.
Okay. And those 17 months in jail, you must have met all your ABVP friends, all of them were in jail at that time. Who among the present leaders were in jail at that time, sir?
At that time in different places, of course, Sushil Modi was in Bihar. Ram Vilasji also was in Bihar. Not ABVP, but student activist and all. In the present generation, only Mr. Hari Babu, who is the governor of Mizoram now, he was in jail, along with me in the same jail. But I had the fortune of being in the company of veterans, freedom fighter Teneti Viswanathan, who was a member of parliament, former minister in undivided Andhra Pradesh, that is presidency. Tamil Nadu, Andhra and all used to be together. So he was there in the jail. And one Ravi Shastri, the leftist revolutionary writer, great poet, he was there. lot of other people also were there. So we used to chit-chat, discuss among ourselves, exchange our views.
17 months. What about your...
21 days.
And what about your family?
My family, I must tell you, I got married and I completed my degree. So by the time I went to university, I was already married. So my wife, poor lady, she was in village, in my maternal uncle's daughter. She was in the village, just people used to go and then tell her that he is not going to come back, Indira is not going to release these readers and all. But still, she was having that much confidence that I'll come back one day. And she waited. And finally, emergency was lifted because the IB advised Indira ji that everything is fine. Trains are moving, buses are going, roads are peaceful, no strike, nothing. People are happy with emergency. So you can lift emergency, and then already there was international public opinion against India and against Madam Gandhi. So believing the story, IB story, she has lifted emergency and ordered elections. And I was released from jail. To my surprise, evening news was that I am selected as a parliament candidate at that young age. So I came out of university and went to jail. And from jail, I came out and then filed my nomination as a candidate for the Lok Sabha.
And sir, you've often said that it is important to remember those days. Why do you think it's important to remember something which is so dark?
Because it is dark, why it happened, how it happened, what is emergency, how the provisions of the Constitution were misinterpreted and misused, and then how the atrocities were committed. The dark days of emergency has to be remembered so that the younger generation, they can guard against the forces of evil forces who are trying to weaken our country, undermine our country's unity and integrity and security. So that people should know the dangers that were posed to the people and the sufferings people have to undergo. Great people like Jay Prakash Narayan, Morarji Bhai Desai, Advani ji, Chandrasekhar, a lot of them, they were all arrested and imprisoned for Madhu Dandavate. And media, there was censorship on media. Only late Ramnath Goenka, Nikhil Chakravarti, and other statesman Irani, C.R. Irani, some such people were there opposing emergency. But their editorials were also were tarred. They were not allowed to be carried. V.C. Sukla, the then Minister for Information and Broadcasting, he used to censor everything. And the censor advisor, whatever he says, everybody has to follow. That was the fear created.
And across parties, there was a lot of, one may say that everyone spoke in one voice. There was that sentiment also of Nav Nirman, a movement of sorts that emerged then.
The JP has given a call not only to overthrow that elected government at that same time, he said we need to have a social transformation, change of the attitude of the people, behavior of the people. That was the call given by him. And he said we must forget the petty small differences, political or otherwise. He gave a call for unity. And all the political leaders who are victims of emergency, who had enough experience, they also realized that they must come together. So the Janasangh, erstwhile Janasangh, Old Congress, Socialist Party and Lok Dal, four of them, they merged together because of the moral pressure exerted by Jai Prakash Narayan. Historically, Janata Party was born.
And where after you were told, the moment you came out of the jail, you were told that you'll be contesting. And then you hit the ground immediately.
Yes. I went home for a day, met my wife and in-laws. My father-in-law gave me 10,000 rupees those days for Parliament election 1977. I came, but you will be surprised to know there was no occasion for me to spend even that 10,000 rupees. Donations poured from various parts of the state. Students used to come and they used to give me 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees, and they used to join the campaign. So there was no expenditure whatsoever on that count. And I saved that 10,000 rupees and returned it back to my father-in-law.
So people were fighting those elections. Sir, those 17 months when you were inside jail, what was it like? Because all the students were there. There was a lot of, that sentiment that was high as well.
So spirits were high because we were young in age.
Yes.
We were not worried about that much about the consequences and all. there were some seniors, including some of the professors. One professor, I don't want to quote his name, is still alive. He was worried and he used to ask others. He is innocent. He was arrested for inviting Anand Margis for lunch, thinking Anand Margis are sadhus. Innocently, he called them for lunch. You know Anand Margis, their story and all.
Yes.
So a lot of them were arrested. This professor also was arrested. These fellow students, they used to play with him and say, no sir, madam is not going to release us. This is the end of the story. Then he used to come and meet me, and then I used to tell him, sir, don't worry, underground movement is going on, international lot of pressure is coming, one day we will be released, we will see the end of this rule and all. Like that, and there are many professors. I can tell you, emergency, that jail life of 17 and a half months, that gave me a lot of learning. There were people from various shades of political opinion, including leftists, radicals, socialists, Gandhians and all. Every day evening we used to have a meeting. And then 1 hour, every political shape of people, they used to be allowed to make their point of view, ideology. And then question answer, friendly. Lot of knowledge. I gained a lot of wisdom. I must thank the emergency on that account.
So 17 and a half months of pure learning.
Yes. And there was another interesting episode. The news came that the rising star of Indian politics, late Sanjay Gandhi, is coming to Visakhapatnam, our university, that area. So we got message that Sanjay Gandhi is coming here, and Mr. Raghuramaya, late Raghuramaya, who was the Parliamentary Affairs Minister in Srimati Gandhi's cabinet, he wanted to bring Sanjay and launch him politically. He used the phrase, rising star of Indian politics, Sanjay Gandhi. So we got message that we should disturb that meeting. So next day we pretended as if stomach ache, and some of us referred to the hospital, King George Hospital, KG Hospital. And the protest of stomach ache and all, there is a medical officer in jail, but ordinary illness and all he will cure. If there is severe this thing beyond his this thing, then he used to refer us to government hospital. There our fellow students came and we planned, and then we have decided to disturb his meeting. Meeting took place, the beginning of the meeting, and Raghuramaya rose to speak and said, I am introducing you to the rising star of Indian politics. The moment he mentioned that, the students started shouting, snake, snake, snake. And everybody was looking the other side and then trying a lot of jostling and pushing and all. Snake, snake, snake. These boys, some of them, they carried water snakes in plastic sachets. And then they opened it there. So people thought real snakes are coming, and then they ran helter shelter, and the police started meanwhile lathi charging also. The entire meeting got disturbed. The superintendent of police, he sent a report to the government saying that this boy is doing mischief in jail. He should be shifted from Visakhapatnam. So I was shifted from there to Hyderabad jail, where there were large number of detainees, and it was a further knowledge for me because interaction with a lot of other seniors also.
And sir, these days we hear a lot about Save the Constitution call which has been given by the Congress party. What are the thoughts that come on your mind?
See, I don't want to make political comments because I have occupied a constitutional position of Vice President of India. But Constitution, safeguarding Constitution means safeguarding democracy, safeguarding fundamental rights. And people should remember, that's why I say this emergency should be part of the syllabus, and the younger generation, present generation, they should know about emergency, about the strengthening of the fundamental rights and the freedom of press, etc. That's why I said it. Protecting democracy is protecting Constitution. The Constitution, rule of law. So I need not further comment on what these people are saying. Yes, Constitution has to be safeguarded. But Constitution, people who changed the Constitution number of times, if they raise that slogan, it will not carry much conviction.
So, today when it is the 50th anniversary, what are your thoughts that come to your mind? India has had a very vibrant democratic tradition.
Yes, because it is again not because of anything else. It is because of the people's resistance. and people's anger, emergency has to be lifted, and elections were held, and the ruling party was taught a lesson, including the leader herself lost election, her son also lost election. And they were shown their place. And the opposition which came together by the call of Jayaprakash Narayan, it has won, and they formed the government. So I remember those days, and then how the movement took place, and how my underground days and my jail days, and then later getting released from jail and then contesting election. It was a very interesting, fascinating story.
My last question is, of course, of your thoughts when you went underground. What made you go underground? I mean, you thought that you could be arrested immediately. You wanted to evade arrest.
Yeah, they told us that all of us are going to be arrested. Go underground. Then we went underground, and we used to get some circulars through friends and all. And that circular says...
And the pamphlets that you were distributing was what?
It was Vande Mataram,
Vande
the
Mataram.
newspaper, underground newspaper. It used to be circulated, and it was more about fundamental rights, safeguarding democracy, fighting against dictatorship, what is happening where. And there is some movement even in the United States also against the emergency. All those encouraging to keep up our morale, such stories also used to come, and also what has happened in different parts of the country, and the atrocities that are committed against the political detainees and opponents. All of them were there in those underground newspapers and pamphlets, because the main media was not allowed to carry the real happenings. I was in jail. Another interesting thing has taken place. In jail, after I was shifted from my Vizag to Hyderabad, next to our barrack, two people, they were hanged. Krishna Gowda and Bhomaya, two people. Both were PWG Naxals, People's War Group Naxals. So they were hanged. We were in the next barrack. The jailers and the constables are called as jailers. Superintendent is different. So they informed us casually, and also the barber used to come from outside to shave the detainees who were requested. They used to carry certain information and also pamphlets. And they told us, sir, these two people were hanged yesterday in the jail. To our surprise and shock. So then I filed a suit in the High Court, challenging, you cannot have a censor on a censored newspaper. Because next day newspapers, the front page of the Indian Express, there was tar, part of it. And then we came to know that there was a story of Krishna Gowda and Bhomaya hanging that was tarred by the censor. So I challenged it in the High Court, saying that, questioning how can there be a censor uncensored? Already newspapers are censored. The judge, I think Mr. Chanakesava Reddy, the bench, it has upheld my contention. They allowed me to argue my case. I was a student of law, and I wanted to practice. My mother, she died when I was 13 months old. She was carrying me. She went to the cattle shed to call the servant to fetch Angavastram for my father, because he wanted to go to Nellore. She went there because the servant did not come back. She was trying to call him, to tell him hurry up. The buffalo which was there, it has hit her from this side to the other side. The horn has come out, and then she dropped me, and she died instantly. My mother used to tell others, this is what my grandmother told me, that she wanted to see me as a vakil, advocate. That's why I chose law. And then I got myself as enrolled as advocate also, but this news came, then went to underground. There was no occasion to practice.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories, Venkaiah sir. Always a pleasure speaking to you, sir.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you to you, and thank you to your channel.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.